Hello and welcome to Love Boys Info. My name is Shua Kayin, and I am just gonna try to do a little bit more English podcast, just so that we can share some of these concepts that I've been writing about on Facebook and Instagram, but they're in Chinese. So hopefully, I'm able to share some of these views, particularly from an Asian audience perspective, with a lens on the Asian culture, so you can understand how Asian audiences see some of these concepts that might be different to that of yours from the Western view. One other thing that I really want to talk about, and it was actually talked about at an IG live chat with BL After Dark, was about the age gap in KinnPorsche. Um, Over the last little while, there has been much conversation and discussion online about the age gap between Kim and Porchay and how this is about an adult and a child. So in the actual series for KinnPorsche, Porchay is 18 years old and Kim is 22. But in reality, Jeff is 27 and Barcode is only 17, and it's often talked about how because he's underage, he actually can't watch the clips with the other crew because, as you understand, the series is actually for audience 18 or over. On the 10th of June, Jeff Management Company posted a notice on Twitter saying that any skinship scenes between Jeff Satur and his active partner are all done with a lot of discussion in workshops and with the crew, with the fellow actor and producer, and none of what he does is outside of the script or uses his own personal feelings attitude. And I think that came across because there was this conversation about whether or not it was all right for Kim to kiss Porchay, but they've made it quite, I think, obviously compared to the rest of the KinnPorsche theory, a lot milder. Like he was just kissing Porchay on his cheek and not even on his lips. And there's definitely none of those sex scenes you see. They cuddle, they had some cute moments, and there was not going to be any sort of adult scenes. But having said that, people are clearly not comfortable with what they are seeing online. So one of the conversation is really about how this is an adult child relationship, and it's been discussed quite a lot. That it's not so much the age gap, because if you're talking about people who are older, if they're over 20 and they have a partner that are 10, 20, 30, even 40 years older than them, that's kind of fine. But if you're talking about a child, a teenager, basically underage child, according to um United Nations, then that's became a bit of a problem because we're talking about, a child engaging in more adult activity with an adult. And it's kind of different to where you've got puppy love, which is, the relationship we have with two teenager. Um, the the argument is one that is quite alive in Asian media, and in Japan there's been lots of discussion about the teacher and student love story that are often portrayed in manga or on TV or movies. Given that this is actually not appropriate, because if this were real in real life, the teacher would be disqualified or may even jailed. Recently in the Korean drama 2521, there's been a lot of discussion about the adult child relationship, whether or not the adults who are more experienced and have no more sort of, I guess, social knowledge, are they there to manipulate a youth mind and thoughts, and whether there is some kind of controlling factors in it. because we are thinking about a child being, I guess less mature in terms of relationship and may not be able to provide actual consent to, you know, whatever they engaged with. So in Kim Porsche, we knew that Porsche first approached Kim because he was just basically an idolizing moment. He is a idol that he really loves and knows a lot about and wanted to have the relationship with, get to know him better. And Kim approached Porsche because he wanted to find out more about Porsche, and the intent of that engagement was not pure, that he was using Porsche for his own benefit. And while we think that they are in a relationship, Kim did not want to admit that he actually likes Porsche, refused to say I love you, and yeah, there's question of whether or not that relationship between them was actual love, even though they are kind of together, and you can see Kim being, I guess, fairly worried about Porsche when he was kidnapped. I think that's also sort of one of the problem that we are seeing in Thailand about underage marriage. So only in the 2018, Thailand have changed this law so that the youngest marriageable age for any person, but that still required parental consent, is has changed from 15 to 17. And in the recent civil partnership bill, there's even call to move it back up to the 18th. Now, this came about because it was basically to do with the Muslim community. And in June 2018, a 11-year-old girl was set with an arranged marriage and created a bit of an outcry amongst Thai public. And at that stage, the Human Rights Commission in Thailand have questioned the wedding and are worried about 18-year-old or younger women are being married to older adults, which not only that it's sort of doesn't meet the United Nations Child Protection Act, but also that it is really a way that families who are, poor or in an undermined situation want to marry their children off, um, because they are seeing them as burdens to the family, or they might marry them off in exchange for something else. And Commissioner Ankana Nilapachit um, said that it felt like this is taking away the rights for young children to learn, to grow, and being abused by adults. And it is quite a common problem actually over in Thailand, um, where children under 18 are married off. So for girls, it's about 23%, which is listed 19th of the in the world, and for boys, about 10% of them are married before they turn 18, which is on the number 11th on the scale of child marriage for boys. Yeah, so it's interesting that these conversations are still coming up because we're now sort of questioning whether the relationship, between the actual characters are legit, but even in real life. So for them to cast two characters with such massive age gap, um, and if you look at what Barcode puts on his, social media, you would see that he is very much still a child. He talked about, um, he posted things like about school, um, about, just hanging out and playing with friends, and, you know, yeah, very much a childlike sort of, I guess, actor. And and it feels like we're trying to get him to grow very quickly. And yeah, there is quite a little bit of a uncomfortness between whether or not what we're seeing on screen is an issue, particularly because Thailand are experiencing issue with child marriages. And yeah, they might not getting married, but it was the whole concept of a child engaging in a relationship with an older person that seems to be a problem. Again, these are issues that are happening in Asia. So Asian audiences are talking about these quite a lot, whether an adult should be engaging with any kind of relationship with a underage 18 or under. Um, it's not gender specific. I mean, majority of them are about girls, particularly because girls are more likely to be married off than boys. But there are that conversation about whether or not, this is encouraging young children to get married off um, for whatever reason. So I think that's also interesting when we talk about the situation in Thailand where, you know, poorer family married off their children because they're seen as burden or, um, in exchange for something. In KinnPorsche, we know that Porchay is in a not as advantaged situation. He might not know that Kim is from a mafia background, but Porchay is from a family where both parents are gone. The uncle has put them into a lot of debt, and this is why Porsche have decided to work for the family in the first place. And he is basically not very wealthy, and all he had is the house that the parents left behind. Whereas Kim is not only a son of a very powerful mafia family, but he is a very successful singer as well, and which means that he is very powerful. And it kind of feels like that whole thing of a poorer and less powerful partner engaging in a relationship with a powerful rich person as kind of like, oh, the whole concept of young families marrying off their children to an older to a more wealthy family. Now, I'm not saying that that's what it's implying, and there are more to come in terms of what's happening. I was just, listening to some of the IG chat. Seems like the actual novel talked about how Porchay will then move into Kim's house and stayed with him, and um, again, it's that whole thing of, yeah, maybe not actually physically married off to a family, but now we're getting the two boys, Porsche and Porchay, m- living in a family of their more powerful partner, and being sort of, I guess, looked after. So it's kind of felt like they're married into this family, even if that's not really like, it's more symbolic thing. And there is that question of whether we are still playing this power control and reinforcing the stereotype of underage marriage. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been writing in the last little while. So I've written this before episode 10 was screened, so I've edited a little bit after episode 10 was on, and just that power dynamic. So it'll be interesting to see how the story is going to unfold before the end. And yeah, I mean, I do think that, if the age wasn't an issue, the relationship between Kim and Porchay is, I guess, the less, mm, is the least sort of problematic of out of all of them. I mean, yeah, I mean, Kim's approach wasn't, wasn't pure in the first place, but it's still a lot better than obviously the other relationship we're seeing with KinnPorsche and Vegas Pete. So yeah, I just wish that it's not to play on the stereotype of child marriages and it could be a genuine, fluffy, cute, romantic moments between two people. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fine that we talk about, falling in love with the idol that you dream about all the time, and I'm sure that's um play into many of the fans who are watching this, who one day dream about falling in love with the idol, and that kind of story happens a lot. I mean, there's lots of stories of where we're seeing, fans and idols sort of getting together and that kind of story. So this is no different, and I think this could be really cute if done properly. And I'm hoping that, the next few episodes will be cute and pretty, and we, drop off all the power imbalance play, which is seems to be the theme of this series. Thank you so much for listening, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.